Hi, and welcome to Night Clerk Radio. This is episode 71, Dystopian Virtual. This is a subgenre of vaporwave. Dystopian Virtual is, of course, based on utopian virtual that we've previously covered, which is a very clean, MIDI sort of inspired genre of, trying to hearken onto the utopias of science fiction. And dystopian virtual is, sort of the trying to hearken to the dystopias of science fiction in terms of music technique, from plunderphonics to original compositions. It's very much inspired by computer music of like corporate and sort of like, I always associate like the two words I always say, like clean and MIDI. It's very precise and very MIDI driven. So, yep. Hello, Burke. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Russ?
Doing good. I'm very happy to be talking about dystopias for some reason.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, they're very relatable these days.
Yeah. And these are good albums that we're going to be talking about. So
they are.
Yeah.
They are. And it's just one of those kind of funny things because, we did Utopia months ago at this point, maybe more. I feel like end of summer.
Yeah.
And people were like, well, there's also dystopian virtual. We saw the tag on Bandcamp. Like, okay, well, we have to do that because it is that like cheerful optimism, I think is how we described it previously. Mm-hmm. It does overlap somewhat. I mean, all these genres do with like corporate vaporwave, which we've talked about before, which I think is like one of the more ironic take in terms of some corporatist utopia.
Yeah.
Like everyone just works and is safe and happy in their office job.
Yeah.
Or like musecore advertising, like the petite bourgeois.
Yeah, they all draw inspiration from this type of industrial music that is meant to sort of be there, but not like, never sold as like retail music, never sold, put in like, it's just background music for investor videos and consumers and like training videos and all these other industrial like video products, media products. But never meant to be something that is like, ephemeral, I guess is another key word.
Heard but not listened to.
Yeah, that's a good way of, describing it. Yeah, it's just the kind of thing you don't even question. So it's kind of like a part of this sort of like all creative works that are meant to be invisible tools to enforce the corporate status quo, like a lot of industrial and graphic design are in. That kind of thing. So, and this is sort of the auditory equivalent of that. Mm-hmm. The auditory equivalent of hang in there poster hanging up in the employee break room. Mm. Yeah. And dystopian virtual is kind of like, well, isn't that kind of messed up?
Yeah, I think it largely comes down to me for like lost futures type stuff. So like utopian virtual is, even if it's poking fun at maybe what were silly ideas of idyllic futures, it still is commenting on all these things you don't really have in your trajectory anymore. Mm-hmm. Whereas dystopian virtual, are virtual or like exaggerated versions of things that can happen to you. Mm-hmm. So I think each album is very different in what its kind of dystopian, its future dystopia is. But I think that's like the common thread between them is sort of less ideal, hopefully lost futures, maybe futures you want to lose.
Yeah, just sort of looking, just Googling the phrase dystopian virtual. Well, the first thing that comes up is actually a rate your music listing of dystopian virtual, the opposite of utopian virtual. The albums listed on here include Death Grips and Serial Experiment Lane remixes of the music. And so, I mean, this is a user generated list, and Burial, but also like a lot of albums you would see, a lot of vaporwave artists. Sub-Eris, James Ferrara. So people have a lot of different definitions of it, but like on the Bandcamp tag, it's a lot of corporate. One of the albums we actually talked about, 9.0 Megathrust, is on there, and
which is about the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan.
Yeah, Fukushima and all that, and there's not a lot of albums on here, actually, in this tag. It's a very niche thing, but it's a very interesting idea musically. So I'm eager to get into these artists because there's a lot of interesting, because they have two very different approaches to it.
Mm-hmm. Completely.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That is a sample from track 1, Arcane Abyss, from the album Feeding Frenzy by the artist Your Discovery, who is a pretty prolific vaporwave artist who also works under the name Horizon Wireless. And of course, both these, Your Discovery, there's a space between each letter, and Horizon Wireless has a lot of non-standard symbols. So it's not exactly the most SEO friendly artist name, but this album also has a lot of collaborations with other artists, most of whom I don't recognize.
A few we've done before. Polyglot and Cybersurfer 3D have been on before. So Cybersurfer 3D did the Biosphere.
Oh, that's right.
Wave album we did.
Yeah, that's right.
Soft Replica, I know.
Yeah, but this is an original composition. There are no it is sample free. It was actually mastered by someone in an actual studio, and it sounds like it. It's a very clean, again, like kind of like a Utopian Virtual album. But I think the real interesting thing overall with this album is, I'm reminded of this anecdote I've heard about it. An actor talking about, how to act. It's like, if you want to act drunk for a role, you try very hard not to act drunk, because a drunk person doesn't want to be perceived as drunk, so they overcorrect themselves. And I think this album is sort of like, a dystopia doesn't want people to like openly acknowledge it's a dystopia. Dystopia is like, oh no, this is a utopia. And so musically, what this album does is it plays this very clean MIDI style music, but then it starts glitching out. It starts, there are a lot of abrupt shifts in the album. There's a lot of like changes. There's a lot of like literal glitching, and it creates a very, you could tell like things are falling apart behind the scenes, and they're getting, as the album progresses, it gets more and more overt about how things are breaking apart. Things cannot hold. And I find that really interesting. So I quite like this album. What do you think, Bert?
Yeah, I really like this emerging. I don't know if that's fair to say. It's probably emerged at this point. Post-vaporwave, they say there's post-whatever, which is what I like. That's my favorite genre tag, post-whatever. It's perfect. It's exactly correct. Like very clean, pristine, intricately put together, sample-free, like electronica. Like this post-vaporwave that we've talked about, where you remove the plunderphonics. And yeah, like you did, I also liked the theming, because if you look at the liner notes, which you don't have to read exactly, but they do make reference to functionally a climate disaster, right? It says the year 2164, our world's become a liqueform wasteland, lost to the horrors of the ocean, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the dystopian. It's a climate dystopia. It's a, more of like a literal, almost back to like nature wave and technology of destruction of the environment through whatever reason. And yeah, and that comes through because it's even in one of the comments by Soft Replica on the Bandcamp page, who is also a collaborator on track 2, they reference that underwater levels were a big inspiration, which does make sense. A lot of it is kind of like bubbling, carefree, and like these just like big lush instrumentals. And then I also have to shout out the album art, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Which is, there's seaweed, there's like Escherian, like MC Escher type geography of like arches that don't quite, the perspective looks a little off.
Yeah.
Skulls, there's a big shark, bubbles.
Yeah. And it's the style of like 3D computer art that is like rebels, that it's very much like artificial. It does not try to be photorealistic. It is like that late 90s, early 2000s, like we're trying to make something new. Like this is like computer cartoons from that era, like fucking Beast Wars and Reboot and stuff like that. It's like that kind of things, very shiny and reflective and chrome and like precise. It's extremely good at setting the mood, the tone for this album. It's a really cool album. There are a lot of really cool techniques. Like track 2, like you mentioned, it's almost like outrun music, like, very, very fast, but still kind of like chill in a way. And again, just some very abrupt shifts, especially like 3 minutes in. And then we go into like track 3 is like ambient soundscape, like an aquarium. Like you can, it is quite cool. I do like track 4 in particular, which is collaboration with Two Circles called Drown Cycle. So why don't we play a sample? I just really like that drum fill in there, as you could hear in that clip.
Mm-hmm.
As the album progresses, it gets a little slower, especially like the last third of the album. You know, they're more meditative. Yeah, a little airy at times.
Parts of it, but a lot of parts of it are still pretty high energy. Like I thought track 7, which is Liquid Passage. I thought a lot of that was still fairly driving and high energy. And like you said, I think Outrun's like an interesting comparison. I don't know. Didn't really pop into my brain, but it does have a lot of these very like driving, energetic, but still, I don't know, like, yeah, maybe Outrun does make sense because there's still elements of it that do feel like carefree. I think I thought about like, despite all the glitching, which is your climate dystopia in the background and of course mentioned in the liner notes and stuff, they're still fairly carefree. And the last track, I should have listened a little bit closer, but I feel like the last track has like callbacks or elements to the first track.
Oh.
So that it, like just little bits, not entirely repeated sections, but like similar in feel. Mostly the drums for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like that almost made it feel like cyclical, like just kind of gotten used to this dystopia and you're just kind of going through your day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like what they're trying to convey in this album is that, you know, it's a dystopia, but it's one where everyone's come to peace with it. Like, you know, things are kind of shitty and breaking down, but everyone's sort of like, well, we've gotten through the worst of it. We just got to rebuild, you know, like, or at least that's, or they're attempting the society's attempting to do that vibe. And yeah, but I really like the really chopped and screwed, like glitchy stuff. Like, especially like a track 8, it just like, it sounds like the track is broken down, like your files corrupt for a split second and then it gets back onto pace. And I really like that stuff. It's very fun. It's a dystopia I wouldn't mind being in. I mean, if I've had to be in a dystopia.
don't get ahead of yourself here.
All right, fair. I mean,
one you could be in.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, maybe we're just in the prequel part of this particular dystopia.
Yeah, I agree though with everything you just said. I really like, I do like all the glitches and the feel changes. I like the variety. I guess I like a lot of this stuff because I've also said I like the opposite of this, but I do think these original composition tracks that are not soundscape.
Okay, yeah.
But are like original compositions of electronic music, and they're all thematically connected, of course, but they are just directly like we're making music about this, not so literal as a soundscape. Like that's a nice break because a lot of the stuff it doesn't have, say, I guess I'm thinking of, it doesn't have like field recordings and stuff that you would find in others. It doesn't try to create the environment. It's more like music for the environment. Yeah.
I mean, there are a bit of like some sound effects, but yeah, it's not nearly as omnipresent as in some albums. Like this is actually kind of restrained in terms, like vaporwave and water sounds. That could be an entire episode now that I think about it. Because man, so many vaporwave artists love throwing in, you know, the sounds of the waves and, you know, water and dripping and that kind of thing. And there's a little bit of it, but like it's fairly restrained. It's really focused on this original composition.
Yeah. And the production on that composition is great. 2 other tracks, just, I mean, I don't know if maybe done the whole album at this point, but 2 other tracks I really liked were track 6, which was the most chill. I think that's maybe the one you're thinking of when you say like it slows down and gets chill. Like that is in that area. I really liked. And then 8, which is back to more like, I don't know, like underwater party dance beat type stuff. Whoever programmed the synth bass patch for track 8 killed it. Like I love like it comes in through the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, that bass is so good. Whoever recorded it or patched it into a synth or whatever, bravo.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, it's a fun listen, and yeah, it's proof that, you know, vaporwave artists are more than just plunderphonics. But speaking of that, though, made it through.
So that is from track 2, Ready for Your Blessing, ? Off the 2020 album, The Blessed Life by Vacation Bible School, which is also a visual album on YouTube. So Vacation Bible School, kind of a classic, prolific, like I say classic, but I guess they're not really like in that 2013 kind of school.
Yeah, they're not like Floral Shop or Blank Banshee.
Yeah. But just, I don't know, everything, they feel like they've been around forever. It just feels like Sunday School came out so long ago, but it really didn't. It's only like 3 years. Okay, yeah. So, but classic, prolific, vaporwave, signal wave, mallsoft, self-proclaimed church wave artist. They've done other tracks, none of which we've really talked about on the show. So like Sunday School, I just mentioned. Christmas Time at North Hill Malls is like a church wave mallsoft in the Satanic Panic series. And they're interesting. So this concept of church wave is interesting. So spend like a few minutes on that because I don't know if it'll ever be like its own episode. After reading an essay by them, maybe it could be. I kind of want to have them on and just chat with them about vaporwave.
I think that would be really fun. Like, definitely, we'll put a link to the essay because it's a really good essay.
Yeah,
yeah. My philosophy of churchwave as a subgenre of vaporwave. It seems so obvious in retrospect, but like, yeah, churchwave as a subgenre of vaporwave, because what has been more commercial and consumerist than Christianity as practiced by Americans in particular. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
The idea of the mega church is just goddamn. So yeah, I really like his linking of the concept of surplus enjoyment to certain versions of Christianity's to the act of going to church and doing the things at church and being entertained and doing yoga there and, you know, getting coffee there and all this other stuff being more important than the actual act of faith itself or worshiping God is very insightful. And yeah, there is a Christian media complex, a media industry, and they put out a lot of stuff, and a lot of it has a lot of music that is very ripe fodder for vaporwave.
It's true. Like the, you know, very gospel inspired sample that led us into this album. So all that, like churchwave takes all of that nostalgia, lost futures, hyperreality, etc., of what is normally applied to just 80s and 90s, like American pop culture largely. Not necessarily, you know, there's a lot of Japanese and other pop culture in there, but largely 80s and 90s, right? Some idyllic vision of those. Yeah, it applies it to Christianity. So like, you know, he talks about in the essay, if you're a kid, you grew up going to church and watching Veggie Tales and all this stuff, and you kind of had this idea of kind of your trajectory into, you know, living as a Christian or whatever. And then as an adult, and it's just people taking all your money through tithing for their mega church and selling you shitty chicken. So
I grew up, I did not grow up religious. Did you grow up in a religious household?
No.
Yeah. No. So, but like, because I grew up in the Bible Belt, I like had a lot of friends who did. So I sort of was exposed to it continuously as an outsider. And I was proselytized several times, but like for those listeners who are not aware, like mega churches are a huge thing in America, and especially here in the Midwest. There's one mega church in particular, James River Assembly, as an example. And to be a member of that church, you actually have to apply. And the application includes, you have to submit your financial info, like your taxes and shit like that. So they know how much to charge you for your tithe. They are deadly serious about this. You have to give them 10% of, I think, gross income, not even net. Yeah. But, you know, obviously they do it a lot. Thousands of people do it because it's, you know, for one thing, so important socially, you know, to be like a lot of people in that community just do not accept outsiders, or, you know, and if you're like trying to connect to the business leaders and the other people, like it's a networking thing. Like it's incredibly important. So yeah, if you're not aware of like how pervasive and how all encompassing this shit is to the people in it, it is mind boggling, you know?
Yeah. I had a cousin who, I don't know the story entirely because I was young, but yeah, they died a pauper because they just gave all their money away to some church.
Yeah.
They had nothing when they died. Yeah. It's pretty wild. So that like that sort of treatment though, of people being so antithetical to the professed belief set of Christianity,
the actual written canon. Yeah. Like.
Is the dystopia of the dystopian virtual in this album is that like, I'm going to use like recontextualization and deterritorialization because Vacation Bible School does. That's the other thing about this is a slight aside, and I'll come back to that, is he makes a lot of philosophy references that I don't know, like if it's like us where you kind of read it and like pretend, just recite it, or if they have a lot of actual training. But so in the essay, he refers to a sentence he writes as Wittgensteinian. So Ludwig Wittgenstein, who's wrote a lot about language and how language interacts with reality and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then one of the tracks, track 5 on this album, is called Deterritorialization of the Sacred. And deterritorialization is a term from Deleuze and Guattari. I'm pretty sure it's from Anti-Oedipus. It might be from Thousand Plateaus, but I'm pretty sure it's from Anti-Oedipus. And deterritorialization and reterritorialization are a simultaneous process where your like social understanding or like relations between terms or how you understand terms, whatever your current one is, gets removed. That's deterritorialization. Mm-hmm. And whatever it's replaced with is the reterritorialization. So there's like a deterritorialization of Christianity as like this path to salvation. Yeah. To like this money laundering scam, basically. If you take the mega church side of it, literally. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of other issues you can raise with Christianity as practiced in America, but I think that's largely it, is just seeing like your religion dismantled. Yeah. Yeah. And a really good example of this is, or sort of like in this album, The Blessed Life, is Vacation Bible School's looking at the intersection of that style of Christianity and Chick-fil-A. Because what certain companies have done is learn how they can use this culture war shit in Christianity to just harvest a very loyal consumer market, right? Like Chick-fil-A is like, oh, we're against gay marriage and we're closed on Sunday. Hint, hint. So you should buy our chicken sandwiches. And this album fucking nails that like intersection and makes it creepy, dystopian as fuck, because this overall uses a lot of like plunderphonics, like Chick-fil-A commercials, and pitch shifting them to make them sound utterly terrifying. God, it's a lot. Yeah. It packs a lot into it. A lot of this album has one sort of structural similarity with Feeding Frenzy, where it'll have like long upbeat or carefree or like gospel tracks, like the one I played at the sample again, that quickly glitch out and devolve into, like you're just saying, a Chick-fil-A ad read, but like all distorted and basically like ruins that attitudes. Like a really good example is this sample from track 4. So yeah, track 4, called A Word From Our Sponsor, is several minutes of just very nice, carefree, like almost video game music in some sense. I don't know. Maybe that's what the sample base is. And then just turns into this, like you heard, like just come by our chicken, like just nonsense. So there's that like structural similarity, like I said, with Feeding Frenzy, where the dystopia is kind of hidden just underneath whatever this veneer is, this thin veneer of religion. That's a thing that comes up a lot. Yeah. And I really like, dig the beat boops for that track. And these pitch shifted Chick-fil-A commercials are just, oh God. It's, I mean, I don't know what's more horrifying, that or like the pitch shifted sermons later on, like, but it's it's an excellent use of plunderphonics and like classic vaporwave techniques. So also like in the very next track, you mentioned deterritorialization of the sacred. It took me a second, but like, oh yeah, that's Pink Floyd's Money that he's sampling. So along with money and sound effects, which I think is actually from the Yeah, that was the big thing about money, is that the drum beat.
Yeah.
Like cash registers and stuff at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Vacation Bible School is going for this intersection of just crass commercialism and consumerism with faith, which, you know, mega church leaders and those prosperity gospel, God, we haven't even talked about prosperity gospel, just love to blend the two and make them basically indistinguishable to church viewers. So like, or churchgoers. So like to them, going to Chick-fil-A is an act of faith, which is just, God, if you could tell this to the early church leaders, yeah, going to this one restaurant, they think they're going to heaven because of that. Is that cool? Is that what you meant in the Bible? You know?
Yeah.
Like that's cool, right? Like,
yeah. It's just one of the wild ways that, you know, capitalist consumer society just trains you to associate every aspect of your identity with purchase. And that identity is not valid unless it's reinforced by consumerism.
Yeah. I also do like in track 8, moving on, like the slow piano music with a lot of reverb added and then just more fucked up Chick-fil-A commercials. Yeah. It's very good.
Another glitch cut that really caught me off guard was at the end of Please Donate, track 9. It's just like old school dubstep.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
And I was like, well, that's a real threat. Like, donate to my church or I'll play dubstep at you.
Oh, no,
like,
heathen music.
It's coming for me.
Yeah. Well, the last track, track 10, just some, you know, crowd sounds and just the weird, creepy prayer / song, hymnal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
God, just Jesus help me. Yep. Yeah, I agree. Jesus help me from this. Please save me from Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Very remorseful track. Like you said, crowd sounds, which sounds like maybe like a congregation, you know, like a big congregation, but also little bits of like remorseful nostalgia, because there's also sounds of like children playing and stuff in there, I think. And I don't know if that's just happened to be in whatever crowd sample. Yeah.
I mean, you got to take your kids to church. Like there's going to be a lot of gotta get them hooked early. Yeah. I mean, it's weird watching that, like, even though I'm like surrounded by it in the Midwest, like as an outsider, my greatest exposure, I'm very sheltered from it, and I'm very lucky. I'm very, you know, live in a bubble separated from it, but I see it more from like things like Everything Is Terrible, seeing things like clips of VeggieTales or like Bible Man and shit like that. Or this is like a reminder, like, oh yeah, everyone, like 80%, you know, 50% of the people you see in your, whenever you go out are like, that's their culture. That's what they live in. They're immersed in this shit. And it's such a weird relationship because like mega churches and these people like hate popular culture, yet they're constantly stealing from it. They're constantly referencing it. They're constantly, because it's a way to reach people, you know, like there's this whole thing about them ripping off like Marvel for like church plays, like making the Passion of the Christ, but using the Avenger symbolism where Iron Man is crucified for your sins. It's just this weird relationship that they have with pop culture, extremely haunted. So like they're haunted by their like secular pop culture, and then they haunt us with their own like desire to control all of society and willingness to weaponize everything, even fucking chicken sandwiches. So yeah, this is a very terrified album because of its implications. It's extremely haunted, like, because, yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to be someone who grows up as a conservative Christian and then get exposed to the wider reality and like getting entirely disillusioned from that, realizing that all those helpful lessons you were told from VeggieTales are just like shit that the church leaders don't believe in. Like they just want to, you know, win elections and get money and like show off their wealth and power.
And most importantly, Chick-fil-A sucks. Like, yeah, that's all very nice talk, Ross.
Yeah.
But also
Popeyes is better. Yeah.
Like everyone's like, I know they're bad. I know they're bad, but I just love their sandwich. Fucking go, and you're like, this is just a goddamn fast food chicken sandwich.
But it tastes slightly different than other fast food chicken sandwiches. So, you know.
Tackling the big issues.
I mean, you know what? They're the one who set they're the ones who, you know, they chose that battlefield, right? Like they're the ones who made Chick-fil-A the crux of it. And so we have no choice but to respond. And
That's, you know what? You're absolutely correct.
You know, it's a fucking chicken sandwich. It's get over it.
Get your bad chicken sandwich and wash it down with your Happy Holidays Starbucks cup.
Yeah. It's amazing that like so many of them hate Starbucks, yet they love. Yeah. Again, it's that parasitic relationship. Like they crave the attention and prestige of being the most popular secular cultural thing, but like they can't stand anyone else. Like, it's a very fucked up point of view. Yeah. But like at the end of this Vacation Bible School essay, he does list a lot of other forms of church wave. So I feel like we could do an episode on that.
That is true.
Yeah.
Nice also emphatically rejects the fast church wave stuff of like Days Vault type shit.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know, like that was also good to see that he's aware of that like shitty aspects of it.
No.
Do exist.
Yep.
Hold on. Yeah. Vacation Bible School is absolutely into philosophy because he has another blog entry that's I was interviewed on Hegelian philosophy and Crystal Pepsi.
I need to read that. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
I'm going to link that in the show notes.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we definitely need to get Vacation Bible School on here. It'd be very fun.
Yeah. Oh, no, the article is not around anymore. I'll find it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Very important.
Well, I think that's a pretty good discussion. I'd also check out the visual album on YouTube. It's a good little visual mix, which you know I am a fan of in general, just on principle. Thanks for listening to this episode. Our next episode, well, we're going on a holiday break. Join us in 2023 when we have figured out what our topic is going to be. We'll announce it on the Discord, probably, but we'll definitely, but also join our Patreon, patreon.com/nightclerkradio. We have quite a few bonus episodes at this point. We have some really good discussions on our Discord. I've got an essay up on there. We have some wallpaper, bonus art. And you'll be supporting this podcast. So yeah, join the Patreon. It's where all the cool kids haunted by capitalism hang out. Oh no, I have become the capitalist. Fuck.
Ross, you've always been the capitalist.
Jeez. Check us out on twitter.com at nightclerkradio. I am at Ross Payton. Burke is at Burke McBurkinson. As long as Twitter exists and is not. If we move to another social media platform, we'll let everybody know before we go. We have a page on Facebook to announce new episodes, and we have a website. That's the main thing, nightclerkradio.com. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever you listen to podcasts on. Give us a review and tell your friends, tell your family, and we'll talk to you later as we haunt the abandoned malls and church lobbies of abandoned mega churches for this holiday season, possibly being visited by three spirits of consumerism.
Yay.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.